We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant, Amber Guyger, guilty of murder as charged in the indictment.
After just about 6 hours of deliberations, the jury comes back with a guilty of murder verdict against fired Dallas police officer Amber Guyger. Good afternoon. I'm Dan Godwin. Let's get right to Fox 4's Sean Rabb at the Crowley Courthouse, surrounded by those sharing their reactions to this verdict. Sean?
And good afternoon to you, Dan Godwin. I can tell you this place erupted with euphoria when the announcement came from Judge Tammy Kemp that this jury had returned a unanimous verdict of guilty for the murder of Botham Jean against Amber Guyger. There was one woman who let out a yell in the courtroom and was immediately admonished by the judge. But then some 200 plus people likely were in the hallway outside the 204th District Court, and you could hear the cheers echoing into the foyer where we are, pretty good distance away, as they were showing their elation. This was a trial and a case where there were clear lines of separation, those who felt Amber Guyger was guilty of murder and those who saw this as a mistake and a tragic and horrible accident. For the many people here today who were cheering, the killing of Botham Jean was just that, murder. Amber Guyger, the former Dallas police officer who had, at the end of her shift on September 6, 2018, came home from work, went to the wrong floor, then to the wrong door, thought Botham Jean was an intruder in her apartment, and she fired, seeing a threat. One of two bullets struck him in his heart, his lung, his stomach. He died. She was initially charged with manslaughter, and then when the case went to the district attorney, then DA Faith Johnson said, now it's in our hands and we'll take it to the grand jury, and the grand jury indicted on the higher charge of murder. And today, after 6 days of testimony and then closing arguments, closing statements yesterday, the jurors came back this morning after a couple of questions, a question about manslaughter and a question about the Castle Doctrine. They came back with murder for Amber Guyger. The reaction this morning from attorneys Lee Merritt and Darrell Washington have to do with the immediate impact of this case and really its larger impact. Let's listen.
It's a sad reality that this community waited on pins and needles to decide whether or not someone could be held guilty for killing an unarmed black man in his home while eating ice cream. This should have been automatic. This should have been anticipated and expected, but it is extremely rare. And we, from this day forward, we're leading the way. We are pushing so that it is not rare, but that this is common, that justice continues to roll down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream.
Although we got a murder conviction, their lives will never be the same ever again. But we just hope that now people who live in the South Side flats, people who live in houses that look identical, this ruling will now say that you are safe to be in your homes, and people can no longer just say, I made a mistake and took your life.
I think it's important for us to note there has never in history, recent history or antiquity, been a case with this unique particular set of facts, and they may very well not be one like this again. So now what's next in this case? The punishment phase starts immediately, 1 o'clock this afternoon. There'll be testimony in that phase. We're going to hear now from Botham Jean's family, his mother. We heard from the sister at the start of the guilt or innocence phase, should hear from the mother and maybe dad in this punishment phase. It's all about trying to determine how much time Amber Guyger will serve to pay for justice and to make justice welcome in this case. Will it be 5 years, 6 years, or will it be on the longer end, near 99 years? Don't know how many witnesses they're going to have in the punishment phase, but remember, with the last police officer charged with murder, Roy Oliver, the shooting in the car, that sentence was 15 years. So we'll see what this jury does with Amber Guyger in this unique set of circumstances. Also told by those in the courtroom that the jurors were expressionless and stared straight ahead as they returned after deliberating and this verdict announced and read by Judge Tammy Kemp. Dan?
So, Sean, once the sentencing phase gets underway this afternoon, It's pretty certain we'll be hearing more emotional testimony from family members of Botham Jean talking about their sense of loss. Might we also hear more about Amber Guyger?
I would think so. I would think that the state would certainly have some more evidence they want to put on in this case, and I think we might also hear from her mother, or perhaps her sister, her brother. I think we will hear from those who love her, who have been in this courtroom for some of her testimony, who have at times had to share room in that courtroom, sitting side by side with the family of Botham Jean. I think they're going to talk up for their loved one, their family member. Yes.
And we have not yet heard from the attorneys who were representing Amber Guyger. It'll be interesting to get their thoughts and find out what, if any, moves they are planning.
Well, still a gag order in place until the end of the trial. And the trial's not over until the punishment phase concludes. That's why we have not heard from Botham Jean's parents outside of the courtroom. We will hear from them through testimony, but not yet in interview or news gaggles until it's over.
And Sean, we were hearing from legal analysts who were paying very close attention to this trial, and there were some of them who were saying, they would not be shocked if Amber Guyger or if the jury had decided that she was guilty of no crime whatsoever. So there are going to be some who were surprised by the guilty of murder verdict that came down this morning.
Yes, I'm sure there will be some surprised by the verdict. Laurie Brown is going to have more on that in just a moment with one of our legal minds at Fox 4. I can tell you, though, that the opinions have been all over the place from day one about this, including over the length and breadth of this trial. Many esteemed attorneys have said not guilty, manslaughter, murder. So it was a cascading of opinions about what this jury would do. The beauty of this moment is you can never tell what 12 citizens will do when they are confined to a jury room and have to work it out for themselves.
All right, Sean Rabb at the Crowley Courthouse, thanks very much for the update.
All right.
As Sean mentioned, Fox 4's Laurie Brown is also at the courthouse this afternoon. She joins us live with more analysis and reaction to today's verdict. Laurie?
Dan, Stephanie Ola, a criminal defense attorney, has been following this case very closely. And Stephanie, the jury deliberated for just about 5 hours. Is that surprising?
It's not necessarily surprising, but I think that considering how much the jury had to think about in that charge, it's a pretty fast verdict. It took Judge Kemp about 20 minutes just to read it to them. So once the jury goes back into the jury room, they elect a foreman. They go back through the charge again, and they're thinking about two different offenses, murder or manslaughter, the defenses of mistake of fact, self-defense, whether the Castle Doctrine should apply, and then a great deal of other things that are common in almost every charge. So I think that their pace of deliberation in this case was pretty quick.
Right. In this case, it started out as a manslaughter charge, and now here we are with a murder conviction. What do you think about that verdict?
Well, she was arrested for manslaughter. She was never charged with manslaughter. Once the district attorney's office got the case, they sent the case to a grand jury, and the grand jury came back with a murder charge. Murder, I think, is the charge that makes the most sense in a case like this. If you point a loaded gun at a person and pull the trigger and they die, that's murder. Manslaughter is generally used in a case where something might happen and you do it anyway. You know a person might die, but you do it anyway. Like, for example, if she would have shot a warning shot into the apartment that ricocheted and it hit Botham Jean, that's more like a manslaughter fact pattern.
Okay, so now we're entering the sentencing phase. What sort of sentence could she receive here?
Well, she can't get probation. The jury at this point is considering only prison time, and they're considering a sentence from 5 years to 99 years. The difference between the guilt phase of a trial and the sentencing phase of the trial is that the guilt phase is all about that one specific incident and any facts that are related to her shooting Botham Jean. Now, once we move into the sentencing phase, now the question is, everything about Amber Guyger as a person that would factor into what would be an appropriate sentence for her. Any criminal history, which she probably doesn't have, any past bad acts, more information about Botham Jean the person, any more information that we can have about Amber Guyger the person. We're going to learn a lot more about her and a lot more about him in this next phase, and that's going to help the jury decide what the appropriate thing to do, what the appropriate sentence for her will be.
Stephanie Ola, thank you for your perspective there. So there's a lot more to come here at the Frank Crowley Courthouse. Sentencing phase begins at 1 p.m. and we'll be sure to bring you updates here on Fox 4.